Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Before we start, I wanted to mention that if anyone has their a microphone on and it's not on mute, then the sound does permeate into the all the recipients of the class. So please be mindful of using your mute button accordingly moving forward. Hare Krishna, all glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, the Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and for the members of the Prabhupada Disciples Association, which is this group that is meeting today to study as a group the original unadulterated books, which today are focused on the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We want to welcome all of you to the program. This is a very exciting project that our group has undertaken, and it's part of our YouTube Prabhupada TV project, which has a total of, I'm going to have to be corrected, possibly 26 videos now registered online on the Prabhupada TV network. So for those people who are not able to attend the class due to time zone constraints, if you could, you can go to Prabhupada TV and be able to tune in and watch the shows, the classes according to your convenience. So today is, I think someone's typing there, if they could put their mute on. Christianity is celebrating Christmas today, which is the Vyas Puja day of the birth of Jesus Christ, which is part of the worship of a pure devotee. Prabhupada had great respect for the guru of the Christian religion. And despite the fact that the Christian movement has very little understanding of transcendental life as their guru did. In fact, Jesus taught the people a certain level of morality and spiritual understanding, but he told his disciples and his followers that I have more to teach you, but you're not able to receive it. It's he was preaching according to time and circumstance, where in the particular situation that we're in, Prabhupada, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, is delivering to us the highest knowledge possible for any living entity in this material universe, because he's bringing forth the knowledge from Śrīla Vyasadeva of who is God in great detail. It's an amazing opportunity, not only because of his appearance, but also the proximity of the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the 15th century, who is Krishna himself. So this information, as Vaishnavas, that we are receiving in disciplic succession from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, is truly a gift to all of us. This is not to be taken lightly. And for myself, I was raised as a Roman Catholic and indoctrinated in the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church through catechism, which is the system that they use to train young people on the path of the Christian Catholic Church. Well, I was fortunate enough at a fairly young age, after spending years and years as an altar boy and a member of the church, to come in contact with the Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. It was in 1970. And so through that association with him in his Vani incarnation, in his sound vibration, myself and a group of us here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, a total of 19 Prabhupada disciples were initiated from this city before the temple was shut down by the GBC, and we were moved to Toronto to help build the center there. So we were blessed, and that's the situation with all the members of the Prabhupada Disciples Association, is to be appreciative of the fact that we have a chance through our association to get a true insight into who Śrīla Prabhupada is and what his role is in bringing people to Krishna consciousness. I wanted to briefly, before we start the class with his, and I know he won't like me to say that, His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, I wanted to mention that the association, this association of Prabhupada disciples, focuses on the principle that Prabhupada is living in his deity, his murti, in the temples, and he reasons ill who thinks that Vaishnavas die. And by his work, he left a Vani incarnation for all of us, irrespective of when we become part of this. We can embrace that Vani incarnation in the form of his transcendental books, the ones that are not edited or changed by so-called scholars or other people who think they have become smarter or greater than their guru. We recognize that Prabhupada is Jagat Guru. He is the guru for all of us. moving forward in history. And we all take shelter of him as both Diksha and Siksha Guru. This critical understanding for the followers of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. This is not a group which is following other gurus. We do not do that. In fact, I wanted to make a comment here. Prabhupada uses the example of plugging into the electrical socket. When you plug it into the socket, the electrical device, if it's a light, the light, for example, goes on because it's charged up with the connection to the socket. So like that, when you're connected to a bona fide spiritual master, the light goes on. The spiritual light, Om Agyana Tiramandasya, the light of transcendental knowledge, comes on in the heart of the devotee. If the devotee is connected to, and if it's introduced to you by another devotee who is connected to Prabhupada, you become empowered. But if that devotee that introduces you, who claims to be a guru, for example, and he's not qualified, then what is the position of his follower? He's not connected to Prabhupada properly, and either is the student. That's as simple as it is. It's not complicated to understand. And therefore, we are stressing this point that we are all Prabhupada disciples. We follow Prabhupada's instructions. And we encourage each one of us to take shelter of Prabhupada's lotus feet in the form of his transcendental literatures, in the form of his lectures, in the form of his letters, and all of the other directions that he provided his disciples while he was still living with us. Vani Vapu, the personal association of Prabhupada, was experienced by some of us, but more important is the Vani incarnation. And we're stressing that with our group, that these classes and our daily routines are all focused around the teachings of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So I want to thank everybody that's joined us. We're getting a very good response from people around the world to this effort that we're making to put Prabhupada as the focal point in our classes and in our instructions to each other. Please subscribe to our Prabhupada TV YouTube channel. We have 100 people now that are now subscribed to it, and we're looking to get millions of people to become part of this effort to focus on the teachings of the pure devotee of Krishna, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. The classes have been very well received, and we continue to get many positive comments and appreciations from everyone. So thank you very much. We do appreciate it. And please proliferate this message to your friends and your family so that we can be successful in pleasing our Guru, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to please Lord Krishna with this effort to help deliver the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya in this Kali Yuga, which is out of control. So I want to pass over the class after the playing of Jaya Radha Madhava by our moderator to His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, who will give the talk on the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Yasoda-nandana Brajajana-randana Yasoda-nandana Brajajana-randana Jamuna-tira Banachari Jamuna-tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Gopijana-vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana-vallabha Girivaradhari Yasoda-nandana Brajajana-randana Yasoda-nandana Brajajana-randana Yamuna-tira Banachari Yamuna-tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Viśvakarmā Prabhupāda Swami Prabhupāda canto Krishna Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai, Delhi Bhagavatams ki jai, Swami Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to His Grace. All glories to His Grace. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author. This is from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 4. We also have in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam a description of the positive effects of hearing the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam from Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 17. Srinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantastu Yabadrani Vidhunoti Surit Satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's, messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Today we'll be reading from the original non-adulterated Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 1, text number 9 and 10. Tatra tatra anjasa ayushman bhavata yad vinishchitam pumsam mekantata shreya tat samsitum harahasi. Tatra thereof, anjasa made easy, ayushman blessed with good duration of life, bhavata by your good self, yad whatever, vinishchitam ascertain, tat those, pumsam for the people in general, ikantam absolutely, shreyaha ultimate good, tat that, na to us, samsitum to explain, arahasi deserve. Translation by Śrīla Prabhupāda. You are therefore requested to explain to us what you ascertain to be the absolute and ultimate good for the people in general, out of your considered and made easy opinion, or you are blessed with good old age. Purport by His Divine Grace. In the Bhagavad Gita, worshipping the Acharyas is recommended. The Acharyas and Goswamis are always compact in thought for the well-being of the people in general, especially for their spiritual well-being. Spiritual well-being is automatically followed by material well-being. The Acharyas therefore give direction in the matter of spiritual well-being of the people in general. Foreseeing the incompetencies of the people in this age of Kali, or the Iron Age of Quarrel, the sages inquired from the Sutta Goswami the summary of all the revealed scriptures, because the people of this age are almost condemned in every respect. The sages therefore inquired of the absolute and ultimate good for the people. The condemned state of affairs of the people of this age is described as follows. Prayena alpayusha sabhyakalo asmin yuge janaha mandaha sumandamatayo mandabhagya yupadhrutaha. Prayena, almost always. Alpa, meager. Ayusha, duration of life. Sabhya, member of the learned society. Kalo, in this age of Kali, quarrel. Asmin, herein. Yuge, age. Janaha, the public. Mandaha, lazy. Sumandamatayo, misguided. Mandabhagya, unlucky. He, and above all, upadrutaha, disturbed. Translation by Śrīla Prabhupāda. The public, men in this iron age of quarrel, are almost always meager, in the duration of life. O the member of learned society, they are not only so, but also very lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, they're always disturbed. Purport by His Divine Grace. The specific qualification of the devotees of the personality of Godhead is that they're always anxious for the improvement of the members of the public. As such, the sages of the Naimisharanya did analyze the state of affairs of the people in this age of Kali. They found it by experience and foresight that the men in this age are of shortened duration of life. Duration of life is shortened not so much for want of sufficient food as it is on account of irregular habits. Regular habits and simple innocent food can keep up the standard of health of any common man. Overeating, over-sense gratification, artificial standard of living, and depending too much on others' mercy kill the very vitality of human energy, and thus they become shortened in a duration of life. The people of this age are also very lazy, not only in the matter of self-realization, but also in the matter of material prosperity. The human life is specially meant for self-realization. In other words, to know that what we are, what is this world, and what is the supreme truth. This life is meant for ending the miseries of material existence, of hard struggle for life, and going back to Godhead, which is our eternal home. But on account of bad system of education, they're completely aloof from such self-realization path, and even they come to know about it, unfortunately, they become victims of misguided leaders. They are not only victims of different political creeds and party, but also they are victims of many types of sense gratificatory agencies, such as the cinema shows, sporting, gambling, clubs, libraries, bad associations, smoking, drinking, cheating, pilfering, bickerings, and so forth, so on and so forth. Their mind is always disturbed and full of anxieties on account of different engagements. In this age, many unscrupulous men manufactured imaginary religious faith without any reference to the standard Vedic literatures of revealed scriptures, and persons who are addicted to the above-mentioned different types of sense gratificatory institutions are attracted by such institutions of religious faith. The result is that in the name of religious faith, so many sinful acts are being enacted, and the people in general are not in peace of mind, nor healthy in constitution. The brahmachari system of the student communities is no longer maintained, neither the householders do observe the rules and regulations of Grihastha ashram. As such, the so-called Vanaprastha and the sannyasis who come out of such Grihastha ashrams are also deviated from the rigid path. The whole atmosphere is now surcharged with faithlessness. They are no more interested in the necessities of spiritual values. Matter and material sense gratifications is now the standard of civilization. And to maintain such material civilization, they have formed into groups of nations, peoples, communities, and there is constant strain of cold and hot war between the different groups of mankind. It has become very difficult, therefore, to raise the standard of humanity in the present distorted condition of the human society. The sages are anxious to get out of the tangle all the fallen souls. They are seeking the remedy from Śrīla Sutta Goswami. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Miritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, Śrīla Prabhupada, who has opened my eyes from the darkness of ignorance with a torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshataham Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So these are very important verses as we're going through this section of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, where the great sages are asking Sutta Goswami for information about the ultimate goal of life. They're asking, what is the aim of all these different religious scriptures? Because they knew that he was a very experienced. In the text number 7, it is described, the senior most learned Vedantist, Sutta Goswami. You are acquainted with knowledge of Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Godhead, as well as with other sages who are fully conversant in all kinds of physical and metaphysical learnings. And we have seen how Śrīla Prabhupada explains what are the qualifications to sit on the Vyasasana. Prabhupada is also described in text number 8, the secret of success in the spiritual advancement of knowledge. And here we are arriving at text number 9, where the sages are requesting him to explain what is the absolute and ultimate good for the people in general. So Prabhupada is explaining how the Acharyas and Goswamis are always compact in thought for the well-being of the people in general, and especially for their spiritual well-being. Spiritual well-being is automatically followed by material well-being. So this is a very important point, because we see that current civilization all over the world is very concerned about material well-being, and the spiritual well-being is being neglected, or it is passed on as some kind of particular fate or particular religiosity. So this is a very important point, because we see here in text number 10, what is the condition of the people of the age? Prabhupada described the public men in this iron age of quarrel are almost always meager in the duration of life. Just like we've discussed previously, how in Satya Yuga, the golden age, people used to live for 100,000 years. The next age, the Treta Yuga, people used to live for 10,000 years. In the previous age, Dwapara Yuga, people used to live for 1,000 years. In the age of Kali in general, duration of life, if that much, is 100 years. It is very rare in the current society to find people that live past 100 years. So this is a very important point. We see even in the Christian Bible, there are references after the beginning of Kali Yuga to some great personalities who lived for a very long time, several hundred years. But in the current age, it is described that people, prayena alpa ayusha. Alpa ayusha means in Sanskrit, short duration of life. Prabhupada describes it as always meager in the duration of life. But now Prabhupada is also describing they're also very lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. We see in the 11th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, there are so many characteristics of the age of Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. One of the faults of this age is people would claim to be Brahmin, vipratve shutraivahi, simply by wearing a 5 paisa Brahmin thread. Lavanyam kesadaranam, that people will think they're very beautiful simply by keeping long hair. Even the sacred institution of marriage will be broken. So many people will break that marriage vow simply on a trifle and quarrel. And so many different disturbances. So this is very, very difficult situation for those who are interested in spiritual advancement. We see in the bottom of page 105, Prabhupada is explaining they're not only victims of different political creeds and party, but they're also victims of many types of sense gratificatory agencies, such as the cinema shows, sporting, gambling, clubs, libraries, bad associations, smoking, drinking, cheating, pilfering, bickerings, and so forth. So this is a very difficult situation for people who are interested in finding and solving the problems of human life, because people are being misled by so many different so-called religionists, so-called spiritual guides, so-called gurus. We see in the 4th canto of the Bhagavad Gita, in text number 42, where Śrīla Prabhupada is describing one should therefore follow the path of Bhagavad Gita as it is expressed in the Gita itself, and beware of self-interested people after personal aggrandizement who deviate others from the actual path. The Lord is definitely the supreme person, and his activities are transcendental. One who understands this is a liberated person from the very beginning of his study of the Gita. This is from chapter 4, text 42. This is a very stark warning from Śrīla Prabhupada. As we have seen, in the age of Kali Yuga, there are many disturbances, many problems. But what is the solution to these problems? It is to take shelter of an unalloyed, pure devotee, of a what's called Maha-Bhagavata Sreshta, of a topmost Maha-Bhagavata, of a Uttamadhikari. Now, I've often seen this argument, well, such and such adhikari can also be a guru, such and such person can be a guru. Prabhupada says here, Prabhupada says there, all of you can become gurus. Yes, you can teach, you can guide, you can counsel according to your realization. But who is the ultimate authority? Who is the perfect authority? who is the infallible authority. There are many references in different conversations where Prabhupada is describing, unless one takes shelter of a self-realized spiritual master, of a liberated spiritual master, his understanding of the Supreme Lord is simply foolishness. In order to properly understand, to correctly understand what is the position of Krishna, the Supreme Lord, the position of the living entity, the proper practice of spiritual life, one has to take shelter and receive that transcendental knowledge or that divyam jnanam from the Acharya, from the bona fide Acharya, Śrīla Prabhupada. Now, if somebody is prepared to argue that Prabhupada is not physically here, how can we take shelter of him? Well, Prabhupada has given the answer. In the beginning of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, he describes, before he explains anything, he lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. Just recently, I was making a compilation of different important quotes from Śrīla Prabhupada. I've often quoted this section from a Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class on the 13th of January, 1969 in Los Angeles, where Prabhupada is explaining the position of great acharyas. And Prabhupada stated, what we have heard from the spiritual master, that is living. When Prabhupada was asked in Berkeley, California in 1975, what will happen to the movement after you die? Prabhupada's immediate reaction, I shall never die. I shall live from my books and you will utilize. I think our friend Viśvakarmā Prabhu has given a nice quote from Bhaktivedanta Thakur in the beginning, in the introduction, that he reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die. This was written on the Samadhi of the great saint Haridas Thakur in Jagannath Puri by Bhaktivedanta Thakur. When Prabhupada was celebrating the disappearance day of his Guru Maharaj, His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, in Atlanta, Georgia, USA in 1975, Prabhupada describes, it is not that he is dead and gone, that is not spiritual understanding. So intelligent, sincere people will not be bewildered by charlatans, posers, pretenders. No, it is easy to understand. Simply one has to give oral, submissive oral reception to the bona fide Acharya. Just like the other day, I was having a correspondence with one of the devotee explaining how Śrīla Prabhupada, when he came to New York in 1966, he made a very unique, amazing recording of the Goswami Astakam. The Goswami Astakam is very important prayers that were composed by Srinivasacharya, a disciple of Jiva Goswami Prabhupada. Incidentally, tomorrow we celebrate Jiva Goswami and Mahesh Pandit, very special acharyas in our discipline succession. So Srinivasacharya composed these 8 prayers, Ashtakam, praising the activities of the 6 Goswamis. And in the second verse of this Ashtakam, it is described, Nana Shastra Vicharane Kunipuno Saddharma Samstapako, that the 6 Goswamis were very expert in analyzing all the revealed scriptures. What for? What were you doing that for? Saddharma Samstapako, to establish the Saddharma, the bona fide transcendental religion for this age. We see in the 12th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, at the end, how Shukadev Goswami is describing to Maharaj Parikshit, Kaler dosha nidhi rajan, astyeko mahan guna, that this age of Kali, Kaler, dosha nidhi, it is an ocean of faults. Astyeko mahan guna, but there is one great quality, Mahan Gunaha. What is that? Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Paramrajet. Simply by the chanting of the name of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can immediately be liberated. One devotee recently was asked me a very interesting question. Well, if it says that simply by chanting once, why don't we chant once and go back to what we're doing? Because in this age of Kali, people are very conditioned, as we see from this verse of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Because of that conditioning, the great Acharyas have recommended, take shelter of that name, that sacred name, that divine name, that holy name of the Lord, the name of Krishna. And the benefit, Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Paramrajet. I've also quoted different places in previous lectures how in the Padma Purana, there is a description that simply the name, chanting the name of Krishna once, whether it is done with faith or simply in joking. I think all of us have seen sometimes some people who are not very serious, they'll take the name Krishna in jest and joking, or the Hare Krishnas. We've seen this when we used to go on public Sankirtan. Some people used to laugh, make jokes, or the Hare Krishnas, this and that. But even those who make jokes, they're still benefited. Shraddhaya Helayava. Shraddhaya means with faith. Helayava means not serious, joking. Briguvara Taranamat Naramatram. Tarayat Krishna Nama. This name of Krishna will still deliver one. So this is the greatest gift that Śrīla Prabhupada has given along with his books. He's brought this Maha Mantra from Goloka Vrindavan. A perfectly liberated soul, he's given that. I wanted to quote before we open the discussion from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, canto number 4. This is a text where it is described, canto number 4, chapter 20, text number 25. It is said, my dear Lord, you are glorified by the selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotees. Now, if we look in the purport, in the second paragraph, Prabhupada is describing a pure devotee always engaged in the service of the Lord, taking shelter of his lotus feet. And therefore, he has a direct connection with these saffron mercy particles that are strewn over the lotus feet of the Lord. Although, when a pure devotee speaks, the articulation of his voice may resemble the sound of this material sky, the voice is spiritually very powerful because it touches the particles of saffron dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. As soon as a living entity hears the powerful voice emanating from the mouth of a pure devotee, he immediately remembers his eternal relationship with the Lord, although up until that moment, he had forgotten everything. So this is a very important instruction from His Divine Grace. And we can just pray that we always surround ourselves with the transcendental message and sound vibration of Śrīla Prabhupada, hearing him chanting japa, hearing him giving Bhagavatam class, hearing him chanting kirtan like that. always take shelter of His divine grace. Hare Krishna. I think my voice is given out here. We'll open up for questions, remarks. Hare Krishna. Yes, Jiva Goswami Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I wanted to ask about hearing. We've heard a lot today. You've used the word hearing many times, and in the purports to the previous verses as well as to this, the submissive oral reception is emphasized. So my question is, how can I improve submissive hearing with the proper attitude without distraction?
Well, Prabhupada describes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that when one chants japa or kirtan, one chants very clearly, audibly, use the word audibly, and every word should be uttered properly. In numerous other places, Prabhupada chants, one should chant with great attention. There is a Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam purport in the 8th canto where Prabhupada describes in the story of Gajendra how there are so many mantras given in the Vedas and Vedic literatures. And one should chant these mantras with great attention, with great concentration. Just like we are chanting every day when we do the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Well, why are we doing this? Because Prabhupada taught us to do this. Everybody knows we have so many classes, hundreds, thousands of classes on the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam from Śrīla Prabhupāda. And every time before he started the class, he gave that sacred divine mantra for purification. So this is a very important point. The major point, I mean, there are hundreds of references to submissive hearing, proper hearing, attentive hearing. It's a matter of us paying attention, and doing that, we will be benefited. Hare Krishna. Yes, Gauramani and Mayapur. Hare Krishna. Go ahead, Prabhu. Come va?
Tutto bene. Thank you. Tutto bene. My respectful obeisances to everyone. Prabhu, I would like to understand well a point, because there are devotees that they say we can't accept Śrīla Prabhupada because we have to hear from the lips of the pure devotee and not through recording, and no, it's not enough if we read the Prabhupada's books loudly. No, they say it's not enough. That so can you please clarify this point? Because I think is yes, I heard the sannyasi said that Krishna cannot enter these how do you say, through the recorder or as we are doing this class. No, so if the Lord is omnipotent, he can do everything. Can you please clarify this point? Because they say that we have to hear from the lips of the pure devotee, and so we need an alive guru.
Well,
you understand the point?
They say so many things. Our authority is Śrīla Prabhupada. And there are many references in various purports and various letters where Prabhupada described that reading the book is the same as chanting. That reading the books is transcendental kirtan. That reading his books is a sacred act of worship. That reading the books is direct association with a pure devotee. I mean, we're hearing right in this purport here, and Prabhupada says the voice is spiritually very powerful because it touches the particles of saffron dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. Now, another point is, you say that they say we should hear from a pure devotee. What is a pure devotee? What is their idea of a pure devotee? Over the last 45 years, we've seen many revised definitions of what is a pure devotee. For example, in Prabhupada's books, there are places where he refers to all the devotees of his society as pure devotees. In other places, there's statements and inferences that a pure devotee is personally embracing Krishna, that he has personally seen Krishna. So depending on what definition they use, they're going to get a different answer. Because we see so many pure devotees that have come and gone. So-called devotees, so-called pure devotees, are pseudo-pure devotees. So if one is serious about spiritual life, first he has to understand what is a pure devotee and how Śrīla Prabhupada is still a pure devotee and is still available. Ram Raghava, go ahead, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry if there's a lot of background noise because I'm driving, but I wanted to ask a question. If you could please elaborate on the statement in the purport where Śrīla Prabhupada says that spiritual well-being is automatic material well-being. And I'll give
I
you
didn't quite
2
hear your
points
last
as a
sentence.
background why I'm asking that. Okay. I was wondering if you could please elaborate on the statement in the purport where Śrīla Prabhupada says that spiritual well-being is automatically followed by material well-being. And the background of why I'm asking that question is twofold. One, I came across a 18-year-old boy who heard in the temple one time and during the lecture how, you know, they say to people, we ask you to experiment, just chant Hare Krishna for one day and see how your life will change for the better. And he said that he chanted Hare Krishna that day and everything went wrong. So he became confused by that. And also, I'm sure you know that John Lennon and Yoko Ono one time, they used the argument that if Krishna consciousness, if Krishna is all powerful, why did the Hare Krishna mantra record album not stay at #1 forever? So if you could please elaborate on that.
Well, first of all, the issue of spiritual well-being, if one conducts his life according to the instruction of the Acharyas, the bona fide Vaishnavacharyas, then everything will be perfect. Now, some people do not understand that, but the modern civilization, which is based on over-industrialization, the military-industrial complex, this is not a natural, sustainable way of life. And many people are starting to realize that. It pollutes the air, pollutes the land, pollutes the atmosphere, pollutes the water. It is not sustainable in the long term. So spiritual well-being means respect for all living beings, the animals, the cows, everybody. Prabhupada many times in these purports of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam criticizes the concept of slaughtering the animals in ghastly slaughterhouses and then claiming that we want nonviolence in human society. That's why spiritual well-being includes material well-being. It will develop. We see in the description of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam during the reign of Maharaj Parikshit that there was so much prosperity because it was based on a natural, transcendental, spiritual basis of recognition of the authority of God and living a God-centered life. Simple living and high thinking means God-centered life. So this is a very important point. As far as the issue with John Lennon and Yoko Ono, well, in the spiritual world, the Hare Krishna mantra remains #1 all the time. But in the material world, where people are bewildered, they are confused, They have so many other ideas. They have so many other ideas. It may be very pleasant to the senses for some time, but it doesn't last. Just like I was explaining yesterday morning, there are two concepts. One is called prakrita, one is aprakrita. Prakrita means material, something which we can perceive. Aprakrita means transcendental. The Hare Krishna Mahamantra is aprakrita. Golokera Premadhana Harinama Samkirtana. It comes from the spiritual world. So that is why people who were conditioned by the material energy in the mode of passion and ignorance, it's very difficult for them to understand how the spiritual sound vibration, the mantra of Hare Krishna, is the solution to all the problems. Because it will purify the intelligence, purify the senses. One will get the proper brain and understand things properly. Because we see so much disturbance in human society. The values are distorted, so many problems, because people are not God conscious. They're not living their lives according to the tenets of revealed scriptures. So I'll leave it at that for now. Viśvakarmā Prabhu, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. I thought that I was interested to respond to Jiva Goswami's question first, and to our Prabhu in Mayapur as well. The Jiva Goswami was asking the question, how do we hear better? How do we develop our hearing propensity? And this, of course, it's based on desire. That one has to have an intense desire to learn about the purpose of human life, and hearing is the basis of it. The most powerful sense that we possess is the sense of hearing, not of speaking. And the more that we listen to the transcendental messages of Krishna consciousness coming from the lips of the pure devotee, the more we'll become enlightened on our mission. And as you become enlightened, your enthusiasm for hearing increases like a snowball effect. Moving down the mountain, it starts small. And then as it goes down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger, and it draws the snow. So the more we hear the philosophy, the more we study the books and listen to the message submissively, because we have a desire to understand this philosophy from the lips of a pure devotee. You have to want it. Just like people in the material world, they work very hard at becoming successful doctors, at becoming successful athletes, at becoming successful teachers, at becoming successful businessmen. They focus on every aspect of their specialty field in order to become accomplished in it. So in the same way, we have to focus on this process. And by doing that, we develop our spiritual strength. We become powerful. It's not just by chance, it's by action. Just like designing your day. If you don't design your day around Krishna, then the day goes this way and that way. You get nothing from it. There's no real reward. But if you design your day, your schedule, in such a way that it's molded around Krishna consciousness, then you develop spiritual strength. You get stronger and stronger. you become more and more enlightened by the mercy of the spiritual master. I thought the Prabhu yesterday from Mayapur made a very good point. I was looking for the quote by Bhaktisiddhanta. There's no need of a reformer in this world. The only reformation you need is your own personal reformation. That is the essence of this. And when you become Krishna conscious through this constant absorption in the process of devotional service, then other people will see that in you. They'll want to be with you. Just like Prabhupada, everyone wanted to be around Prabhupada because he was totally absorbed in the process of devotional service as ordered to him by a spiritual master. I wanted to relate a story to the Prabhu. I don't know a spiritual name in Mayapur. We were in the car. I was driving Prabhupada to Buffalo. I made it my duty to drive the car when Prabhupada came to Toronto. So when we went on a morning walk to the beaches, or we went on a walk to the on a walk to the Parliament buildings, I took Prabhupada to strategic positions in Toronto where I felt it would bless the entire city with the presence of his lotus feet. So I had the opportunity when he was leaving to also drive. That was about a 2.5 hour ride from Toronto to Buffalo. What was the conversation in the car? The conversation was no conversation. Prabhupada was chanting. He was focusing on Krishna, on his order of the spiritual master. And we all were happy to be there, to be in his association, to take advantage of the great opportunity that we had to be in the presence of the pure devotee. So the pure devotee, the advanced devotee, is always focused on his own Krishna consciousness, absorbed in the mission. In our case, the mission of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, in his words, in his teachings. And this is the essence of this philosophy that Prabhupada practically demonstrated to all of us. Very serious about your own personal reformation, not everybody else, you. And I wanted to mention further about your question about people saying to you, the Prabhu in Mayapur, where they say that you need to hear the philosophy from a person that can speak it. This is complete madness. This has nothing to do with transcendental philosophy. This is a spiritual science. It's not about mundane presence of an individual. He lives forever in sound. Prabhupada, the same. You're reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhu. Tell them, what do you think when you're reading the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya coming from Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami? Is that potent or impotent because it's not being spoken by Lord Chaitanya directly to you? This is complete madness. And this chaos is permeating through the Vaishnava community by these bogus gurus that have accepted the role of being pure devotees when they're not. This is nonsense. And the perfect example is in Mayapur, where you are, seeing all the hypocrisy that goes on there. This is complete nonsense. Sorry for getting so intense about this, but the fact of the matter is I'm sick of it. After seeing it for 50 years, 53 years of this garbage that's been going on in the name of compromising. That's what they're doing. They're compromising because they have a business, the guru business, and they're going to maintain that business at any expense. Prabhu, Yaśodā-nandana
That
Prabhu.
is the,
Pardon?
excuse me, Prabhu.
Yeah, your voice.
That is the impression that they give.
It's
The
bogus.
What are you
impression
saying,
that
Prabhu?
they gave to me is exact.
Yeah, your
Cannot
voice
hear
is
you.
cutting out. Your voice is cutting out. You've got a bad connection.
Can you hear?
No, you've got a bad connection. That's okay. I know
Oh,
what they're saying.
sorry.
I know what they're saying to you. It's nonsense. Complete nonsense.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please respond.
So one point is, as you may know, many disciples of Śrīla Prabhupada never physically met Śrīla Prabhupada. They were recommended by the local temple president. They were initiated, but many of them did not meet Śrīla Prabhupada directly. So did these people receive a proper initiation? Were they proper disciples? And many disciples only saw Prabhupada the day of their initiation, and they went on doing service under the system that Prabhupada created with temple president and GBCs and sannyasis and senior devotees. So was all that service useless because they did not spend all day, all night with Śrīla Prabhupada directly? Prabhupada set up his society on three basic fundamental principles: the printing of his books, the study of his books, and the distribution of his books. This was the three fundamental principles of his society, of his movement. Now this has been tossed upside down with upstart, self-appointed gurus and voted-in gurus without authority who are busy promoting themselves, using the missionary assets of Śrīla Prabhupada for their own self-aggrandizement and self-promotion. And this has been seen repeatedly. And that's why we have so many problems in the Gurukul system, in the Varnashram system, with change books, all kinds of problems. There's so many difficulties because of these deviations. The spiritual well-being of the society depends on following the instructions of Śrīla Prabhupada. Then all this material well-being of general society and the spiritual society will also follow. But if the spiritual well-being is neglected and compromised, such as what we have seen, everything is upside down. There is chaos. Utpatayeva kalpate. Prabhupada quotes that verse from the Narada Pancharatra, that devotional service which does not follow the Shruti, the Smriti, and the Puranas simply is non-authorized and creates a disturbance in society. It creates a disturbance in the spiritual society, and it creates a disturbance in regular society, and it misleads people. The association with a pure devotee is the basic, like Prabhupada, is the basic fundamental truth of Krishna consciousness. They've shunned Prabhupada aside and put him in a dim historical position and promoted their own physicality. Prabhupada used to preach that Vani is more important than Vapu. They are preaching that their Vapu is more important than Prabhupada's Vani. That is the reality of what's going on, and that is a falsehood. Don't go for it. Just like we read in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 42, last two sentences. One should be aware of people who mislead others for self-aggrandizement. Very dangerous situation. Yes, Jiva Goswami Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. In text 10 today, it talked about the qualities of the men in Kali Yuga. Specifically, I wanted to talk about being unlucky and how, and unlucky and also disturbed, always disturbed. So for me, this idea of submissive hearing is super important. And I want to dig into, I want to get your feedback about how to avoid the distractions that an unlucky person like myself has let's say, for example, in our particular meeting here at Prabhupada Disciples Association, we have a chat box, and we have 14 people have responded in the chat box, and I find that to be a distraction, especially when it comes on the screen while the lecture is being given. So how can I avoid being distracted and disturbed by something like that, or someone raising hands, for example? Instead of me thinking about what's being said, I'm thinking about what's the next person going to say who's got their hand raised. How can I avoid this kind of a feeling?
Let me respond to that. I would say
Okay.
this, Prabhu, that you're basically in the class here. So you're thinking about Krishna, you're thinking about everything that's going on in relation to the questions and answers that are going between us all. This is, a normal thing. I don't see it as a problem for you. It's just a matter of you sorting and classifying how you want to deal with it. For example,
Well, let's say, for example, if we're in a classroom and there's a teacher in the classroom, there aren't going to be 14 people talking in the classroom, or 16 people.
Yeah, don't look at the chat. Just turn it off. It's not
Why?
necessary.
How can I turn it off?
All you have to do is, click it, and then it clicks off on your screen, and then you don't have to look at the questions. Because the
I
questions
understand. Is there a way to have it not pop like now? Is there a way for Bangladesh Speak not to come onto my screen?
There's actually, if there's an arrow next to the chat icon, and you can actually say disable show chat previews.
Yeah, that's all. So just click it off and then don't pay attention. I did want to address this question with you again, though. In text 17 of chapter 2 of the Bhagavatam, and this also relates to the point that was brought up by the Prabhu in Mayapur about hearing from the pure devotee. It's not potent unless it's presented in the personal aspects of these other people. The verse is this, text number 17, that's chapter 2. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing Krishna's message, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Very famous verse.
Absolutely wonderful. That's so wonderful. And I really get that. But that's hearing from Krishna. I'm talking about hearing from distractions.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I'm going to read the purport if I could, just briefly, part of it, Prabhupada's purport. And hopefully we can get some insight from it. Messages of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, are non-different from him. Whenever, therefore, offenseless glorification and hearing of the same is undertaken, it is to be understood that Lord Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound, which is as much powerful as the Lord is personally. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his Sikshastika, declares it clearly that the holy name of the Lord has all the potencies of the Lord, and he has endowed his innumerable names with the same potency. There is no rigid fixture of time, and anyone can chant the holy name with attention and reverence at his convenience. The Lord is so kind to us that if he can be present before us personally in the form of transcendental sound, but we unfortunately have no taste for hearing and glorifying the Lord's names and activities. We have already discussed the point of developing a taste for hearing and chanting the holy name. It is done through the medium of service to the pure devotee of the Lord. The Lord is reciprocally respondent to his devotees. When he sees that a devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance into the transcendental service of the Lord, this is Prabhupada speaking, and thus becomes eager to hear about him, the Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way that the devotee may easily go back to him. The Lord is more anxious to take us back to his kingdom than we can desire. Most of us do not desire at all to go back to Godhead. Only a few men want to go back to Godhead. But anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Sri Krishna helps such sincere devotee in all respects. Yaśodā, maybe you could continue to respond to Jiva Goswami in this regard.
Let me give an example here.
Please.
When I was in Canada, I was working for a law firm in a legal department. And my life was very different now that I'm retired. I have more time. But every time I had to go in the car, I would put a tape of Prabhupada chanting. When I got home, I had a tape recorder upstairs and one downstairs. One would chant japa 18 hours a day, 20 hours a day. Downstairs I had a lecture of Śrīla Prabhupāda all the time. It kept playing all the time. But I mean, the idea here, I think I've discussed that before. We can put this modern technology to our advantage, especially now. It's even easier with cell phones. With cell phones, I know that Bhakti Ulysses doesn't like to hear that, but with cell phones, we can put these to our best use and engage those devices to hear about Krishna, to hear the pure devotee. It will be to our benefit. That will clear out many of the obstacles. Yes, Ulysses Prabhu, Hare Krishna, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. I have a question regarding the same topic Jiva Goswami brought up about unlucky. We understand by luck, it's related to gambling, like I throw a coin or dice or whatever, and then I'm lucky. So what does that mean to be unlucky? Like there seems to be karma, like everything is determined by karma, but then this term luck comes in. So what does that mean? Thank you.
Well, there's individual choice and there's the arrangement of previous karma. Everybody has the individual choice, has independent decision making. Lucky, I mean, Prabhupada many times was asked, well, why is it that Krishna doesn't stop us from making the wrong choice? And Prabhupada's reply always was, well, because you have independence, you're not a stone. There's one lecture, Prabhupada, the stone has no choice, but you have a choice. Just like in human society, I've already said the government doesn't like the idea of spending a lot of money on prison house, on jailhouses. But they know that there will always be a class of men, a criminal class, that will disobey the law, that will disobey the government, and there is a need for a prison house for the criminal element. So the idea of lucky or unlucky, well, if we want to be lucky, we just have to follow the instruction of the Lord and his instructions in the scriptures given by his pure devotees. As far as whether it was unlucky, well, unlucky means somebody who chooses to misuse his independence, they get an unlucky result. They get an unfortunate result, just like the citizen who chooses to disobey the law of the government and engage in criminal activities, they get unlucky by misusing their independence. They also have the choice to follow the law of the government and to act in a way that is a responsible citizen. But if they choose the other way, they'll be unlucky. It's a matter of independence. Yes, Ram Raghava Prabhu, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
I would like to address one of the points that Jiva Goswami Prabhu mentioned.
Can hardly hear
And
you.
as one of the
Cannot hear you.
moderators- Okay, how about now?
Not much. Speak
Okay.
loud.
All right. Just as one of the moderators, I would like to address the point that Jiva Goswami Prabhu made. I know as far as the question, the text items that come up that people put up, I know I've been guilty of responding to one of the questions that came up on the text one time several weeks ago, so I apologize for that. But in general, I would like to say, I think it's not, people should try to refrain from putting text messages up during a class, because it's sort of like being in a class and instead of raising your hand and asking a question, you start a conversation with somebody next to you or somewhere else. In a class, that's not considered proper. So I think people should try to refrain from putting text unless it's an emergency or something that's absolutely necessary.
Good point.
I think Ulysses had his hand up, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu.
Okay, go ahead, Prabhu. Ulysses.
Hare Krishna. I didn't, but I'll add a little comment regarding the purport. It was talking about artificial life, and we always come back to the same thing again and again in all the purports, that the current civilization based on factory exploitation of nature makes everyone poor, very few people super extremely rich, and exploits Mother Nature, creates so much suffering. Everybody becomes rebellious and riots and all this stuff. Drought, so many climate problems. So the solution, as always, self-sufficient farm, Varnashram, live in the country, get out of the cities. That's always the same path. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Well, that's a very good point, because we know that Śrīla Prabhupada gave that instruction to many of his disciples, and that instruction is there in many of his books about simple living, avoiding the artificial life in the city and everything. That instruction has been given by Śrīla Prabhupada. I mean, you know, I discussed before that Prabhupada also has given the instruction to establish Varnashram self-sufficient communities. And this is going on with various serious devotees, such as your good self, Ulysses, trying to follow Prabhupada's instruction. And we see the great benefit of working harmoniously with nature. Now, even if somebody is not able to, for various circumstances, either financial, personal, or whatever, is not able to leave the cities, at least you can start by getting a couple of pots and growing some herbs for Krishna, or grow a couple of potatoes in a pot or something, some kind of progress with regards to self-sufficiency. There's a lot of things that can be done in this regard. It's not that simply one has to give up if one is not able to get land. There's all kinds of possibilities. I mean, I know at some point there was a conversation where devotees asked whether all the householders should go to the farm. Prabhupada said, why just householders? Everybody. Unfortunately, our movement has never really developed these facilities to give shelter to devotees. They were too busy promoting these jet-set lifestyles of a few self-appointed gurus. But it's never too late, better late than never. People can take shelter of various places, various communities, and trying to do the best they can. Yes, Ulysses, you have a final comment.
Yes, to add to that, we did it ourselves. We're living in the country. We have a very nice lifestyle far away from civilization. And there is a great opportunity right now for all devotees, because we have internet. We can easily find work from home through the internet. So one can easily get out of the cities and still make the same lifestyle of having a job or income, but just simply move out of the city. And we've done this very successfully, and it's very easy thanks to the internet. Anyone who wants to try it, I can guide them, and it's very, very easy way to get out. Thank you.
Excellent.
Very nice, Prabhu. So thanks everybody for participating. Just want a little notice. Tomorrow is the either appearance day or disappearance day. I don't have the calendar in front of me, but of Jiva Goswami Prabhupada, as well as one great Acharya named Mahesh Pandit. I sent out an email yesterday, which I'm assuming many of you may have received. If you not receive it, just give me a notice. It's the Prabhupada talking about the life of Jiva Goswami, as well as various statements about Mahesh Pandit. So we will now finalize our program. Viśvakarmā Prabhu will summarize, and we will have the kirtan.
Thank you very much. And we want to thank everyone. Jiva Goswami, thank you for your inspiring questions today. A very lively conversation, I could say, with the group. And this is what this is about. It's about association. I had someone speak to me about our class, a very prolific businessman from our area here who listened to the class yesterday. And he felt very inspired by all the participants in the class and how revealing the philosophy becomes through this forum. And this is called Sadhu Sangha, the discussion amongst devotees. And it becomes a great opportunity for all of us. And for all of the viewers that are subscribed to our Prabhupada TV channel and are subscribed. So I want to encourage everybody in our group to bring other people on board through the power of the internet. If they are not so disposed to be part of the live broadcast like we're having, they can at their leisure tune in to the Prabhupada TV and see the classes. They're going to be part of our larger programming that we're going to be producing very soon. So this is all part of the mission, the plan to reach as many conditioned souls as possible on the globe. So once again, we have class coming up Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll carry on with Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then next Saturday and Sunday at 10 o'clock, we had a really good response today to the participants. So congratulations to all of you, and continue to proliferate the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya through the Prabhupada Disciples Association and its focus on Jagat Guru, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. If we could have the Kirtan by Prabhupada now, that will end the program.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai to the assembled
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha
Yascha,
kripa sindubhya
Kripa
eva
sindhubhya
cha
eva cha,
patitanam
Patitanam
pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
namo
Namo
namaha. Hare
Namaha.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Haribo.
Krishna.
All glories to
Haribo.
the Prabhupada Disciples Association membership. See you on Wednesday. Haribo.